Hey everybody, this is Jimmy Walker. I know it's been a while since I made a tutorial, but we have two people joining us today. Their names are Philip and Tamika. I'm going to be showing them how to create a UI element that pops up whenever the player collects a power-up. So we're going to go into our prototype scene here where we have all the power-ups, and we can see that we have like this magnet power-up which drags all these coins to us. We have a high jump, and we have a few other things as well. So it's what we want is we want part of the canvas to pop up saying, hey, you just got this power up, do something. So let's go ahead and since we already have a canvas here, which our canvas is a really large UI element that displays all of our information. So we have down here our health that will be displayed along with our soul that tells us how much soul we've earned or how many coins we've earned, along with what power-ups we've currently collected. Now right now when we play the game, we'll see that as we play, these are kind of like transparent. And once the game starts playing, we'll walk forward and we'll click this and we'll see that we now have a magnet ability which pulls these towards us. And that's great, but we can figure out what that does. But if we get something that's a little more obscure like these wings, well, what does that do? What ability have I gained? Now, as a developer, you know that this is high jump, but as a playtester, they may not know this. So we have to give them some sort of indication of what they just collected. So since we're going to be working in the canvas, I'm actually going to hover my scene view right here where I can see exactly where I'm working. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to go down to UI, we're going to go to image, and we're going to click on this little icon. Never scale your UI assets. And the reason why, because when you scale them, is what ends up happening is it saves the transform component of the scale instead of the actual rect position of the position X, Y, and the width and the height. So as I scale, you can see that the width is staying the same, but now the scale is set to 3. And this can become a problem whenever you start setting your anchors. So if you set your anchors with a different scale, it'll scale to those anchor proportions instead of the actual width proportions. So by clicking on this and making it wider, we'll see that we've done the same thing, but now it's almost 300 pixels instead of being 300 times on the X. So I have my game view docked here to the side. This will tell me the approximate size of the UI box that I want. I'm going to want something kind of like this, something that takes up most of the screen that the player can see. We have these little icons, these little triangles right here. We're going to want to drag those to the edge of these blue circles. These are our anchor points, and this will lock this UI element into our canvas. So no matter what aspect ratio they're playing on, it will scale proportionally. To make sure this works correctly, you'll need to click on the canvas up here. And we have this component called Canvas Scaler. Right now it's set to constant pixel size. And that's alright, but we can see like the way this looks at 1024 by 768. But if we switch to, say, 1920 by 1080, we can see that we're starting to get a little bit of stretching here. And we don't really want that. So we're going to switch this from constant pixel size to scale with screen size. Our reference resolution is what we're currently looking at. So in this case, our reference resolution will be 1024 for the width and 768 for the height. So X will be 1024 by 768. So now when we switch over to 1080, we can see that everything stays the same aspect, and it looks a lot more cleaner. So we have this image right here. We're actually going to want to make this black. Really, Unity? You're going to do this to me? There we go. And the reason why we want this black is we want this icon to pop up in here. I probably actually need to be over here on the canvas. So we want this icon to pop up, and we want to show what it does. So we have the icons right here. I'm actually going to duplicate this. I'm going to drag these into the image. So now all we have to do is just turn these on, and they'll be where we want them to be. But of course we'll still have to move them. So we're just going to overlay each one over the previous one. So this way they can see what the icon is, and then we'll have the text telling them what it does. So right here we can see that we have our anchors. We'll go ahead and lock the anchors in here. Now one important thing to remember about the canvas element, if you wanted the elements out here, you would not make them a child of the image. Instead, you want to create an empty game object. And the reason why, because as you can see, let me just click on one of these other ones, it'll be easier that way. I cannot drag the anchors outside of the parented object. So that's definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind when you're working with the canvas elements. Is just make sure that whatever you're working with, it's inside of that game object. And earlier you saw where I clicked off of it like this. All you did do is just hit Control Z. It'll bring you back to where you were. Oh, come on. There we go. And that's something that will save you a few seconds. It may not seem like much, but if you're having to do that, say, 20 times, it can actually, just in one sitting, can actually turn out to save you a little over a minute. So the next thing we're going to want is we're going to want a text component. So we're going to go down to UI. We will go up to text. We'll say, we'll just say powerup text equals null. We'll actually call this text inside of the script and have it change. We're going to want this to be white, and we're probably going to want to set the size to roughly, I'm going to say 30. So we'll notice that disappeared, and it'll reappear here in just a second. So we're going to want this to be the width, or about the width, of this box. And we'll set our anchor points to it as well. So we'll set our anchor points in here. There we go. And that should be good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to call this powerup text. So with that done, we can go ahead and turn all of these off. And the text is the only component we will leave on. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're actually going to turn these on and off in the script. And the text will just change. But because we have all these that are overlaid, this is why we're leaving them off. So this way the script can call these objects, turn them on, and then it'll just update the text component itself. So we're going to go into Visual Studio and start scripting. So we'll wait for this to load. Yay! So let's go ahead and take a quick look at some of the components that we are going to need to make this work. So we have game objects, so we know we're going to need a game object component that we're going to need to call. And we have a text object in here, so we know we're going to need a text component that we're going to need to call. In order to call a text component, you need to make sure that you have using UnityEngine.ui at the top. And once this loads, I'll be able to showcase that. Now, I already have this because I'm calling text component from two other objects. But this is what it looks like, UnityEngine.ui. You want to make sure that's at the top, so this way you can call the text component as seen right here. If you have IntelliSense activated, this will actually be like this light bluish green color right here. If it's not, it's going to look like this. I should have mine updated. There it goes. So we have a new text that we're going to call powerup text. In addition to that, we're going to create a new serialized field, and this will be of type GameObject, capital G. So what is the difference between a capital G and a lowercase g? Because I get this question a lot. The difference is that the capital G GameObject is a class component that you are calling directly. The lowercase g is the GameObject that this script is attached to. So we know that we're going to have the high jump, we'll have speed boost, we will have double jump, we'll have triple jump, and lastly we'll have magnet. So I already have these in the script somewhere, I'm sure. I'm not getting any errors, but I know I have them in there. So is what I actually want to do is I want to say PU, which stands for power up. Now I'm just going to copy those two letters and paste them at the end of all these power-ups. So is what I want to do.
Don't forget the wall jump.
Oh, you are absolutely right about that, Philip. I do not have wall jump. I don't even see it in here. So I will need wall jump.
It's actually line 19 if you look at it.
There we go. And so I'll actually need to duplicate my wall jump and move it inside of here. And we'll just move this right about here. Turn that on real quick. And we will lock these components in right here. Now we're
Can you
seeing
have the?
something really
Hey
interesting
Jimmy,
here. Yes.
Jimmy, can you have the same code twice because it's the same line on 19 in the script?
So it's actually going to be different code that we're going to be working with, and I'll go over that here in just a second.
Okay, I was saying it was exactly the same way. That's what I was asking.
Yeah. So we have this icon right here, which is all black, and that doesn't really show up well on the black background. So one easy thing that we can do is let's just make this like a gray or like a dark gray. There we go. We could add a border to this if we wanted to. I'm not too terribly concerned about that. I actually have another image in here that we could use to make this look a little bit better, and it's this box component. So we can actually drag this box in here and do it that way. And then probably make it just a little bit darker. So this way they can still read it real easily and everything and see it real easily. So I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to turn off the wall jump. And for the text, I'm actually going to go ahead and add an outline. And I'm just going to set this outline to 2 by 2. And let's go ahead and crank up the alpha so this way there's no transparency on it. We can also add a shadow if we choose to. I'm not too terribly worried about that, but I think I'm going to make this 1.5 by 1.5. So now that we've done that, everything should look good. And we'll go into here. So line 19, we have these game objects. This is wall jump on. Now the reason why we're not getting a conflicting issue with this, because if I were to change this to wall jump on, we'll see that we get an error, and it should pop up down here. There it goes. So the reason why we're getting this error, that's because this declaration has already been made. So this is why we need different naming conventions depending on what we're going to be using. So now that we've done that, we're going to need one more game object. And this game object will be this main image right here that pops up. So let's go ahead and do image power up. So we have set all of our game objects, and now is what we want to happen is we want it to be wherever the player hits the game object, it will pop up with that image, pause the game, and wait for an input so that way the thing can disappear. And the way we're going to do this is we're actually going to say image powerup dot set active. We'll set this to true. And real quickly, because this is wall jump, let's go ahead and do wall jump pu dot. So we're getting the component of game object right here, because this is what we declared game object is. And right here, after we hit a dot, we're actually getting all these subcomponents of this game object. The subcomponent that we're using right now is set active. We'll see this little purple cube, which means this is a method. For those of you who studied C++ and C code, that's like this is a function, a public function that we are accessing. Because this is C#, C# is an object-oriented language, and therefore we don't actually have functions, we use what are called methods. So we're going to do set active. This will be set to true. And then we're actually going to, after all this has taken place, we're going to say start coroutine. The other way we could do this is an invoke. Right here, an invoke method. But the reason why I want to do a start coroutine, because I'm actually going to stop the time, and we'll call this power up pickup. So you'll see that I set this up as a string. You don't have to set up as a string. You could actually just type in power up pickup and set it up as a method. Now I have found issues to doing this. I know I have a red squiggly, but if I were to come down here and type in enumerator, because this is a coroutine, power up pickup, and let's go ahead and say yield return new, wait 4 seconds, and let's just say 3 seconds. We'll come back up here and we'll see that that red squiggly has disappeared, because now it is finding that coroutine. The advantage of setting it up with a string, from what I found, you have a lot less issues that way, and so that's why I'll set it up this way instead of the other way. So the first two things that we want to do is, or actually the first thing we want to do is just say time.timescale equals 0. Is what this does is this will actually pause the game. It will instantly pause it, so everything should freeze. Everything that works off of a time component. If it works off of something else, then you might see that it's still moving in the background or whatever. But generally this will pause everything. Because this pauses everything, this works for wait for seconds. That means this will not work. It'll be 50 seconds before you're wondering why isn't the game working. So because this works off the time scale, we actually need to say wait 4 seconds real time. Wait 4 seconds real time will actually ignore the time scale and continue running its own coroutine. So every time we run this, what we want to do is we want to say high jump pu dot set active will be set to false. This will be speed boost pu dot set active false. Magnet pu dot set active false. Let's see, what else do we have? We have double jump pu dot set active false. Triple jump.
And wall jump.
Which one? Wall jump.
Wall jump.
I seem to be really good at forgetting that today. Alright, so the last thing we want to do is image powerup dot set active false, because we don't want this screen to stay on. So what about the text? Well, the text, we're going to come back up here, or before we even do the text, we actually need to call the text and get that component. So up here, we're going to have a new text component, and this will be called powerup text equals powerup text dot get component, and the component that we are getting is the text component. So this right here is just what we're calling this text component. The text component would be like, it's a car. You know, hey, we need a car. Well, what kind of car is it? Well, in this case, we're going to say it's a Honda Civic. So each time we call the Honda Civic, we now have the component of that car, and we can do whatever we need to do with it. Open the door, take out the engine, blow it up, whatever. It doesn't matter. So because we've done that, anytime we collect the wall jump, we're actually going to say power up text dot text, because we are needing to change what the text states. And we're going to do this as a string. So you have to have a string input to be able to change the text. Is what we want to say is, let's see, this is a wall jump. You have picked up wall jump. Can now jump off of walls. So there we go. Now we're actually going to want to copy this because we want to paste this in different areas. So we have the magnet. Let's see, you have picked up magnet. We're actually going to say most sold. And then we have jump increase. So we'll paste that in here. You have picked up jump increase. You can now jump higher than before. Oh, no, wait, that's high jump. So we're actually going to copy this. We're going to paste it right there. And we're actually going to get rid of this guy because we don't know if it's double jump or triple jump. Luckily, this right here will tell us what it is. I'm going to change jump increase to greater than or equal to 2, just in case we pick up more than 1. You have picked up double jump. You can now jump again while in the air. And this one would represent triple jump. So you have now picked up triple jump. Now jump twice while in the air. Speed increase. So we're going to say you have picked up speed increase. You can now move faster than before. And that should be it. So now we have all the text set. So since the text is set, now we can start coming in here and setting up everything else. So we're going to simply take these and we're going to come down here. So we have magnet. And instead of magnet, or instead of wall jump, it'll be magnet PU. High jump, this will be high jump PU. This one will be double jump PU. This one will be triple jump PU. And then we have one last one, which is speed boost. Alright, so now that we have done that, all of these will be set and active, but then this is going to come into a problem. What if the player is reading this and they don't finish reading it and they're like, well, okay, what does it do? I saw what I picked up, but what does it do? I don't understand. How do we fix this? Well, the way we fix this is we can simply create a private bool, and this will be set, this will be called powerup screen. So we'll wait for 3 seconds and we'll say, let me go ahead and copy all these so I don't have to retype it. We'll say powerup screen equals true. And we're going to come up here to update. If powerup screen, meaning if powerup screen is true, if, and come on Jimmy, where are your parentheses? Input. Now input here is a class file, so this means I'm actually going to be getting the subcomponent. So in this case, the subcomponent I want is any key, meaning they press any key on the keyboard, it'll go away. So if they press any key, is what we're going to do. I'm going to say time.timescale equals 1. So we're setting the time back to normal, and we're going to say powerup screen equals false. So this way it'll always be set to false, and everything will disappear. So let's go ahead and populate the inspector with everything we just did. So we're going to click on player. So we see we have all these empty components. So we have the powerup text, which will go up here. This will be the high jump, speed boost, double jump, triple jump, magnet, wall jump, and lastly, our image itself. So we'll go and click on this image. We'll turn this off. We'll click on maximize on place so we can verify everything is working the way we want it to. So I should be able to hit this and I can still move. So we can see that this is kind of working. It's not disappearing after 3 seconds. So let's go ahead and take a look at the code and see what's going on here. And also we need to move the text in a little bit. So everything is lined up really nicely, but it's not disappearing like it should. So is what's going to go on here. The first thing I want to do is actually turn on this image, and I want to click on the text component. I'm actually going to move this in right about here so we have just a little bit of space. Make it a little bit more clean. There we go. And so now I can go ahead and turn this back off. We'll come into the script. So is what's going on, you remember all that stuff that I copied earlier? Well, I'm not actually deactivating it. So we're actually going to need to populate all of this, so this way it's all set to false. The other thing we want to do is we actually want to create a new bool called canMove. So we're going to say private bool canMove. And inside of update, we're going to say if canMove. So we're going to encompass everything in here with this. And we're going to come back up here to the top. We're going to say if canMove. So we see that right here we have an exclamation mark in front of this bool. This is the exact same thing as can move equals false. So if can move is false, then we'll do this. Because I'm just checking to see if it's true or false, I can actually change this if statement to an else. Because it's only true or false, so it's either this or it's this. If you had different things that you're checking for, then you could always say else if. But because I'm not, I can just keep it as this. So we'll simply say, let's see, trying to think on how I want to script this. We'll simply say, where am I calling player velocity at? So we'll simply say player velocity.x equals 0. Player velocity.y equals 0. So this should stop the player completely. And because can move has to equal true, and this is actually going to come into a problem. So the issue that we're going to have is once we hit play, we won't be able to move because it's checking to see if can move equals false. Whenever you set up a bool, the bools are always equal to false unless you specify that they are true. So right here we're going to say can move equals true. Then we're actually going to come down here, and each time we pick up a power up, we're going to say can move equals false. So we need to make sure that we paste this in each one of the power ups. This one I can actually paste right here, and so that's fine. That was speed increase. So I need one more thing, something I actually almost completely forgot. We need the timescale and the start coroutine. So we're going to come down here, and if you notice, I'm pasting both of these after the set int. This way, it sets everything first before stopping the game. In this case, I can actually come down here and paste it after it runs both these if statements, and that would be fine. So there we go. Let's go ahead and test it now. So now, as soon as I hit this, it should pause the game. There we go. You have picked up magnet. Most soul will now be drawn to you. Okay. You have picked up jump increase. You can now jump higher than before. Okay. You have picked up double jump. You can now jump again while in the air. Alright. You have picked up speed increase. You can now move faster than before. Alright. You have picked up wall jump. You can now jump off of walls. Alright. So we can see that that is all working. I'm not going to beat the level, but we can see it's working. So that is how you set up UI canvas elements. Tamika, Philip, do y'all have any questions or anything?
Nope, so far so good.
Did everything that I just do make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, Philip, what about you?
Yeah, now I see how fast you do that.
Sorry, I was actually trying to go a little slower than normal. I was trying to explain everything I was doing. But yeah, so thank you for joining me for this tutorial. And if you have any questions out there, YouTube, make sure you put them in the comments or anything. And I generally read the comments, so if you're struggling with something, shoot me a message, throw a comment on there, and I'll be more than happy to show you how to do something. Until then, I shall see y'all next time.